It's July the 30th, 2023. We're up in the Sono Switch Tower Museum, originally called Tower 44, back in 1896 when it was put up. The name changed to Burke under Penn Central. Today we have Pat Mattie here, 35 years in the track department, retired off of Metro North. Pat, when did you hire out?
I hired out March 24th, 1975.
Did somebody help you get the job on the railroad?
Yeah, actually my brother had been working on the railroad at the time. He was working at the diesel shop in New Haven, and his father-in-law worked track department. And we were at a 4th of July party, and he asked me, he said, "Hey, you want to work for the railroad?" 20 years old, 19 years old. I said, "Sure, I'm thinking, I'm not working at the time." He said, "Okay, I'll get back to you." I said, "Okay." A couple of days later, he said, "You go down to Meadow Street, New Haven. You got to take a physical." I went on there. "Hello, Pat Mattie, I'm here for a physical." "Okay, come on up." I go up there. They do, check your heart, blood pressure, that kind of stuff. And we had a test. It was like an IQ test. It was some questions of just some visual questions, some math, a little bit of math and that kind of thing. And they said, "Okay, we'll get back to you." A couple of days later, they called me back. I said, "Okay, you got to go to North Haven, Stone's Yard." I said, "Okay." Whatever day it was, the day. I headed up there, and that's where I started on the railroad. I started at North Haven, but I worked at Cedar Hill Yard. Repair track actually down there.
The RIP track.
Yeah, we worked east and west Cedar Hill. We worked on the hump. Actually, I think I was there for 2 or 3 years, and they rebuilt the whole hump up there. They came in with a bulldozer and a loader. They tore it all up. They left the retarders. They didn't change. Actually, when they took it apart, the retarders, they put them off to the side. They didn't bring in brand new retarders. They just put the same ones on once the track was rebuilt. So, but that's where I worked for a few, 3 years, Cedar Hill Yard.
And then where did you go after that? What did they offer that you took it?
I went to, I started working on the shoreline. They started a project up on the shoreline. It was a government project where the government had put up millions of dollars to start a gauging job. They went out there and they gauged from, I think it was New Haven to Groton, and we gauged the whole track, both sides. And then after the gauging job, we went through, they put ties in, and then welded rail, and of course surfacing.
So this was when they put in the cement ties?
No, it was actually,
wood
in the
ties.
days, it was probably 76, 77, 78 maybe. I was up there, and I stayed with the gauging job. And, as we went up, we changed. Headquarters was Old Saybrook, Clinton, then we went up to Groton. And then from there, like I said, they did the whole thing. They started with the gauge and the ties and the rail. So.
And then when that project was finished, where did you go from there? And were you still doing the track, or were you on a machine by then?
No. Oh yeah. By that time, I had been on a machine. I ended up. There was a project going on in New York in Queens, so we went to Oak Point Yard. There was a headquarter up there, and I ran a tie injector up there. So we used to tie our equipment up in Oak Point Yard, and then we come out in the morning, we go over the Hellgate Bridge into Queens, and we probably put in I say probably back in them days was probably around 600 ties a day, like that. And then same thing, that was a tie gang I worked on, and behind us was the surfacing gang. And then from there, I kept with the tie job or surfacing gang. I was on a crossing gang. and those kind of things, till I finally got back in the 80s, and then I ended up in Bridgeport Yard, and I worked on maintenance. Wasn't a production job that I worked on.
When you say maintenance, Pat, you mean working on the machinery or maintenance in the track?
Maintenance of track, we do sections of track instead of going like mile post to mile post. You know, like if we were going to work from New Haven to Westport on track 2, that was part of the project. That we would just maintain track. When I went to Bridgeport, you know, there'll be ties, like maybe we put in 20 ties here, or you know, maybe do some ditching, open up some spots that
For
have
drainage?
drainage problems, stuff like that. Yeah, that's what we would do.
Yeah.
You know, so, but then, as I went along, you know, that's where I stayed. I stayed right in Bridgeport with the maintenance part of it. And that's where I really enjoyed the work. I really enjoyed doing the maintenance part. Because you move around. Not, you know, it was being in Westport one day, being in New Haven, you'd be popping in some timber, you know, down a Water Street, you know, or coming out of New Haven and the different interlockings, or coming up to the bridge approaches. We'd fix some, you know, some bad ties before we get into the bridge, you know, the bridge timbers, stuff like that.
I know you retired as a crane operator, right?
I actually retired as I was a backhoe, I was a class 2 operator. I ran a loader, backhoe, tie handler. It was part of a big job that was class 2 operator, but you had 3 or 4 different types of equipment that you ran out of Bridgeport. Had to be qualified on all pieces, whatever they wanted to use for that day, or you know, whatever project was coming up.
So you were holding rail and ties while men were working underneath your machinery. You had to be very cautious.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very cautious.
Yeah, you did.
And you had 4.5 feet of safety.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was it.
Track centers, yeah.
Track center.
Yeah.
You step over that, train's going to kill you.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Guys, we would have a briefing in the morning. The track foreman would brief the gang, the crew that we were working with every day. They would tell you, you know, here's where we're going to work. You know, to send out a service track, or maybe we just have permission from the dispatcher to work on that track per, you know, time frame, and then we'd have to clear. So everything was explained to the crew before we went out. And then, you know, if I would be out there working, say, for instance, if I was, you know, going to put in timber in the interlock, and so I was going to change some timber, I would tell the guys, look, I got the material over here. Just watch, you know, when I get the timber out, you know, you guys want to dig the hole out a little bit, we'll slide it back in, then, you know, you do your work and just let me finish what I got to do. And that way there, we were all on the same page what was going on. And
you were working in between trains.
Yeah,
when you were at these
sure.
interlockings.
Sure, sometimes I'd be outside. Like if I was working in Devon, I'd be on the inside the interlock and on the 3 side, but I had a spot where I could work. The equipment would be here. We'd slide the timber out, and of course the foreman would have to get permission to work within inside the interlocking limits.
He'd get foul time.
He would get the foul time.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah, and then we would naturally couldn't, you know, you couldn't compromise the track. You could take out a timber or 2. And then they had to be put back in, and then the fellows, our guys would have to, you know, nail it back down again to, you know, make it safe. But working around the guys, I mean, over all that time that we worked together, I knew everybody, and it was like with anybody else that ran equipment. You know, you got used to the person that was running the equipment, and you got used to the guys that would be on the ground. So, you know, you kind of had that.
Everybody watched out for everybody.
Oh, exactly.
Because you knew.
Oh, yeah.
You all knew.
Yeah. It'd be like anything. There'd be trains coming, even if they were, you know, if they were coming west to east on track 4 or something, the guys would say, you got one coming on 4. You got one coming on, you know, on track 2. Even though we were clear of that track. But that's what they did. They all looked out for each other. I'm sure.
And so you went on, and then what year did you retire?
I retired 2014, 35 years service.
35 years service. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Great
maintained a lot of those friendships with guys.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, even to this day, we get together, we'll come out, and we get together on a monthly, maybe every 2 months, we'll have a luncheon. We have everybody's welcome, whatever department, doesn't just have to be the track department. And of course, John, being you come right, you're welcome, and everybody else, Mark Osmond. We all have these guys that come out, and we like to talk about the different things that we did, and even stuff that you're doing, being retired.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it all works out, and we stay about a couple hours, and then we go home. We go back to our regular business, and hey, we'll see if we could have one in another couple months, or if anybody's available. We try to move around a little bit, because there's some guys that some guys that live in Bridgeport. And so we'll have a luncheon down around the Stratford area, and then there's some fellas that live in the New Haven area, and we'll have a luncheon down there. So everybody comes out, and if they can't make it, then they'll come the next time. So it's really nice to of course, to not only see everybody, but keep up on everybody. How everybody's doing, and
Things like that.
yes.
Well, that's great, Pat. We're going to stop here, and you're going to come back on in a little bit.